Joe, great to see you. I'm surprised you've got time to come and chat to me because we know you're probably one of the busiest people in Lancashire. How long is it now that you've been involved in the world as tech?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We're just talking about that, and it's coming up for 35 years. So a long time. Obviously, tech 35 years ago was very different than it is today. But pretty much all that time, it's been around or involved with technology of some description. Do
you still get excited by the next new thing? Because tech doesn't stand still, does it?
No, I mean, it'll have moved on today, unfortunately, Rob. So in terms of excited, yeah, absolutely. So there's always something new, and it's how we adapt and adopt that technology to suit either our business or someone else's business, and where the excitement lies, really.
Yeah. Now, 35 years, it's not, I can remember that long ago. It's not too far, but the challenges that people had and what they came to and what they wanted from technology, whilst the tech itself is changing, as you say, will have changed while we've been sat here.
Yeah.
Are the needs and what people want from tech, are they fairly consistent over the years?
I think that's a pretty accurate summary, really. I think over that 35 years, it's always been the same requirement. Can we do things better? Can we do things more efficiently? And can we be more productive? And I think that's always been the driver behind adoption of technology. And that is exactly the same today as it was 35 years ago. No difference at all.
Do you think sometimes, though, that, I mean, the tech, I love tech, I know you do, in the business that we work in, you get the new box and it's got the nice lid and all that, and it's exciting, but it's sometimes easy to lose track, isn't it, of why you need that and why you're bringing it into the business?
100%. So we're big advocates of understanding your business processes before you make a decision on new technology. So if you want the newest shiny bright thing, feel free to go and get the newest shiny bright thing, whether it's in your private life or in business. But in reality, you need to spend time and consider why you need that shiny bright thing to improve that business process. And if you've not done that sort of business check or that process check, then invariably the tech might not quite fit, and you'll end up with either an experience that is not quite as you expected, or you'll fall out of love with that tech and think, well, tech's not for me. Yeah. So you've almost got to take a step back, understand what it is you want to try and achieve with it, and then go and find the right piece of tech or the right tech partner to help you deliver on that particular solution.
Now, the companies that make tech are very good at certainly appealing to the likes of me. They know what buttons to push. But it sounds like you're saying just sort of, slow down a bit, because, and we've had phases where 20 years in business next year of you see an advert for something and it's going to change your world and you buy it, but then it doesn't quite unlock or doesn't achieve what you thought it might do. Yep. Is that a common thing that you see?
Exactly. I think we were talking before about the journey that you go on, whether it's transport, whether it's a vehicle. You can go from a destination A to destination B in a 25-year-old car. It will still get you there. The journey might not be quite as comfortable, but the destination will be the same. It might take you a little bit longer to get there. Yeah. Might not be quite as efficient. So you don't need to get the latest version. You don't need to get a 15 when 14 will do. Technology companies are brilliant these days about building in redundancy on technology. So they're almost building in something that in 5 years' time, this will be end of life or obsolete. So you're caught in a tech trap. And sometimes understanding or talking to a tech partner about how to maybe manage that or circumvent some of those traps that may be set for you will definitely help your business in the long run.
Yeah. Certainly I've experienced this, that tech has got more sort of condensed, but also the list of things that a widget or a box with wires coming out can do has got bigger. Do you find that companies don't, very rarely use a bit of hardware or some software solution to its full potential?
Again, 100% right. So in terms of hardware maybe not as much. Hardware tends to be quite specific in terms of what to want to deliver for a particular task. The biggest area for that is software.
Right.
So many businesses will have software. You might be an off-the-shelf package, or you might be a Windows 365 user, is a really good example. So that'll come with things like Teams integration and various other modules and software packages within it. And invariably, our customers are probably using 10 to 15% of the functionality of those softwares, and don't know about many of the sort of use cases for those particular products. And that's where training and education on the particular product becomes far more valuable to you than the tech itself. Yeah. So if you've got a business that's operating, say, Microsoft Teams, your staff only use 10%. If you can get them up to 30, 40, 50% utilization on that, the productivity improvements you'll get from those member of staff and the improvement in document flow and information flow will be immeasurable, really. And that's where you're going to get those productivity gains. and that improvement on your bottom line, and you can focus more on your customer than the back office administrative tasks, then that's where you're going to get the benefits.
Just in terms of that on training, I know back when I started at ITV, which was 98, 99, around there, and obviously it was a very big organisation, and they had an IT department which was manned by, and woe betide anyone logging in or, clicking things, but nowadays I think, we've grown up, certainly my kids who are 11 and 13 can look at a system drive, can install programs.
Yep.
How has that affected the commercial world of business, where you have a much more, I could imagine there's some IT person or pro watching this saying, stop talking.
No,
but
absolutely.
That knowledge has grown.
Yep.
Is there still a level, though, where people shouldn't start messing and should consult the experts?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always space for the enthusiast. I mean, a lot of the businesses we will talk to will have grown from maybe a small business, 1, 2, 3 person business, that's grown into a 15, 20 person business. Yeah. And those IT skills will have been in the business. They'll have been the enthusiastic amateur, we'll call them, but a specialist that with some learned knowledge, and it gets to a certain size, and that's where sometimes that knowledge gap and that ability to look across the broad breadth of technologies rather than the ones you're using is where you need to look. So it's about widening your focus and your vision, whereas when you're stuck in your business you can be very narrow, and it's that narrowness that tends to be the handicap. So you use what you're used to, rather than using what you necessarily should be using, and that's where you need to maybe look at outsourcing some of that support or outsourcing some of that expertise, and from a consultative point of view, just to find out, are we doing the right things? Because you may find yourself going down a cul-de-sac or taking a left-hand lane where it's the right-hand lane that you need to be in. Yeah. And whether it's regulatory changes or legislation changes that are coming in that might affect your business, you need to be aware of what they are and sort of manage longer term. And sometimes those in-house people can't see that far ahead.
Yes,
and
because they've always done it.
They've always done it a certain way, and they're busy looking at what we do long term, but then not looking necessarily at the infrastructure that's going to support that long term vision long term. Yeah. So it's working today, it will still be working in 5 years. Whereas in reality, we talked about the end of life a few minutes ago. That end of life might come to your firewall, your switches, your hardware, and it's about mitigating and managing and processes and building in costs for those processes as well. I was just going to say,
when you're working with businesses, and I think when you first start to do a business plan, you're certainly not thinking about infrastructure maybe or IT. We have a product, we're great at it, we sell more of it. At what point would you suggest to a company, really start to look at that growth and how much IT, you're going to be dependent on that, and then factor in, a capital investments or whatever that might be?
Yeah, I mean, I would say day one. Is the ideal time to do it. I'm a big believer in the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Yeah. But if you've not planted one, plant one today. Yeah. That's the sort of maxim for it. So any time's a good time to engage, but yesterday is always better than today, because you don't want to come across the problem. So a lot of the times people may come across the issue, we've found an issue today, which is now going to hamstring our business from today unless we do something. That's an expensive solution. Yes. Whereas if you've taken the time to be a little bit more proactive, even engage slightly before or ahead of time, that's going to be far less expensive and far easier to sort of manifest itself into your business than emergency work today. As in any walk of life, whether it's a boiler at home or whether it's, doesn't matter what it is, you need to maintain it, you need to look after it. They say maintain it every 12 months for a reason. Yeah. If you don't touch it for 14 years and it breaks, then you're going to have an expensive problem on your hands. And it's no different with IT or tech or software, to be honest with you.
Do you think people are wary of it? Because obviously a commercial, it's almost with a boiler or the service on the car, it's almost, we kind of understand that. But do you think there's sometimes a challenge because people don't necessarily understand IT, when a company like Nybble are saying, we should review it every year? They're just thinking, well, it's just an opportunity to sell us stuff.
Yeah, and I think some of the benefits to those reviews are almost intangible, really, because they are, if you're making those little incremental steps, they don't feel as like a bigger decision. Yeah. Whereas if you're waiting for significant events to take place, things feel much more significant, or again much more expensive. Whereas if you're regularly talking to whoever it is, whatever the technology or whatever the service you use with your supplier, you're better regularly conversing with them, because you'll spot those things. So it might be that the phone system is changing. It might be that that broadband connections are changing. It might be that a particular piece of server infrastructure is end of life. So I think Server 2016 is coming end of life at the moment. You'd be amazed how many people have still got Server 2016 on their infrastructure, and they don't know about it. And yet in sort of 3-6 months' time, it will be end of life. There will be no support. If something goes wrong, you've got a significant issue. So it's almost not, it's not fear-mongering. It's just saying to people, you need to plan. You need to try and plan as best you can. And sometimes you've got to stand back from your business and look at it almost from the outside, really, as to where are my critical points within that particular business. And sometimes they might be IT, sometimes they might be vehicles, it might be the building itself. You don't know which one they're going to be, but at least have the foresight to get involved with them a little bit further out than the actual problem manifesting itself.
Just on that, and I know you guys cover the whole sort of, spectrum of things around tech and IT, but on sort of fear-mongering, we see lots of adverts, and we'll be exposed to them on social media about if you have a cyber attack, and the very word attack, and they'll show the iStock clip of the guy with the hood on.
Absolutely.
And then you think, like our business, 20 years next year, never had a breach, I suppose we could say, that we know of.
Absolutely,
So then when we see those, we're a lot, wiser now, but there could have been a tendency to say, it's not happened in 20 years. Just, what's your take on that, and what should there be, the response be when we see these sort of adverts?
Again, I suppose labouring the point, very similar to some of the previous answers, really, in that it's, there are professional criminals out there. Those professional criminals are working hard every day to try and liberate you from your cash or from your data or from something that you've got that they would like instead. And they only need to be right once. They need to be right once today. They might try 100, 200, 300, 1,000 different times. So you've got to be in as strong a position as you want to be. There are many simple steps that you can take. So whether it's endpoint security, then you can go to things like Cyber Essentials Plus. You can put firewalls in place. So the list is endless as to the things you can put in place to prevent those attacks or prevent those, and to give yourself sleepless. Don't have the sleepless night is the key, or rest easy at night. But again, as part of a longer term plan, they don't all have to be done today.
Right.
But you just need to understand where your weak points are within your infrastructure. And most weak points in the business are the individuals that work there and the communications they're engaging with the outside world. They're your weak points. So things like simulated phishing attacks, they're the things that can help do that. Now, they're over and above normal cyber services, but they're the ones that really resilience test your staff to see, are they paying attention and are they doing it, but they're doing it in a safe environment where you can then be told, no, we can re-educate you as to why you shouldn't be doing that. So it's those regular touch points with your staff that make them more aware of where the risk could be. Whereas if you're not talking about it for 2 years, 3 years, they're never really going to know. And they don't know when the one that comes in is the one that might be the one that sort of pulls the rug up under your feet slightly. And again, having to react is far harder than being proactive.
Well, it's such a, I know we could talk for days on each subject, but I think probably this in a way ties in well with, I think, a lot of people's perception of IT and tech, and that it's complex. But in under a minute, someone's watching this and thinking, oh, are we up to date? Do we need to buy that? What should a business owner or someone do?
So my advice to any business, if you're unsure about technology, you're unsure about software, you're unsure about integrations, whatever those things may be, cyber being one thing, find Nybble online, find Nybble.co.uk, look for our telephone number, give us a ring, and we will just act as that piece of advice, bit of consultation, and try and put your mind at rest to what you may be. Now, not interested necessarily in you being a customer, ultimately. We'd rather you were safe, secure, and had the right advice and move forward with that correct advice than buying something you don't necessarily need.
Amazing. Great to chat to you, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.